do you think is the best team in the Big 12 heading into the 2023 season? In this video, we'll be going over all the composite power ratings for all the 27 nationally acclaimed power rated system and gurus, including the ESPN FPI, S&P Plus, Sagarin, and the Massey ratings. We're going to be going in order from the weakest up to the strongest average power rated team, starting at the bottom with the Kansas Jayhawks, one of the more surprising teams of all of college football. This team made it to the bowl game for the first time since 2008. It was 15 years since Kansas last made it to a bowl game. They were actually ranked going into their Week 6 or Week 7 game against TCU, I do believe. Ended up finished 6-7, but one of the more successful seasons in Kansas Jayhawk history. They're rated 63rd nationally, and they have one of the tougher schedules, 18th overall. But that number on the bottom, fourth most returning production. I think that's number 2 or number 1 in the Power 5. I think it's number 2 or number 3 for Power 5 returning production. Kansas Jayhawks, they got, I think his name's Davis or Daniels. I forget his last name. I think it's Daniels. Coming back for the other quarterback. See if Kansas can not only recreate what they did last year, but also build off that and get to maybe 7, maybe even 8 wins this year. West Virginia, a lackluster team each of the last 2 years. 5-7 finished last year. 61st rated nationally. 11th strength of schedule, one of the hardest schedules in all of college football, and being returning production of 102nd ranked. It doesn't look good again for the West Virginia Mountaineers. They look like they're going to finish at the bottom of this newly revamped Big 12 yet again. Number 12, Houston, finished 8-5 in the AAC, coming in the Big 12 for the first year this year. Rated 58th nationally, 24th in strength of schedule, but 119th rated in returning production. That means 13 teams have less returning production than Houston does out of 133. So Houston looks like, all signs point to Houston not finishing even in the top half of the Power 5, the Big 12, the first year in this conference. Another team that's in the Big 12 for the first time this year, BYU. First time they're in a conference since, I think, ever. 8-5 last year as an independent, rated 56 nationally, 33rd strength of schedule. 118th, just like Houston, 118th returning production. Only 15 teams have less. Another team that's destined to finish at the bottom half of the Big 12 this season. Doesn't look good for BYU, but anything could happen. These are just preseason power ratings. We'll see what happens with the Cougars. Iowa State, a team that's been absolutely at the bottom of the Big 12 since their the best season in school history in 2020, where they were in the Big 12 championship game. 48th rated nationally, 5th strength of schedule, one of the toughest in all of college football, not let alone the Power 5. They're 23rd rated in returning production, but I don't know how good that is when your team has basically averaged 3.5 wins 4 wins the last 2 years. So we'll have to see what happens with Iowa State Cyclones, but it looks like it's going to be another disappointing year in Ames for Iowa State. Number 9, Cincinnati, the fourth team to join the Big 12 after all these departures come next year. Looks like Cincinnati is going to finish at the bottom half. Doesn't look like all these newcomers are going to be doing well. 9-4 last year in the AAC, 44th nationally, 53rd strength of schedule. But again, returning production 117th. It just doesn't look good for the Bearcats, who have basically dominated the American for the better part of the last 5 to 6 years. And we'll see what happens with Cincinnati in their first year in the Big 12, but all signs point to them not doing well. Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy is on his 16th or 17th year at Oklahoma State, one of the longest tenured coaches in college football. Team, they're rated 41st nationally, 56th strength of schedule, but they're not even in the top 100 returning production. Looks like it's going to be another mediocre to lackluster year for Oklahoma State Cowboys. We'll have to see what happens in this new Big 12. I'm going to be saying that a lot, guys, because it's not going to be the best conference, but it's going to be the most fun, as you'll see as we go down these rankings, how these teams rank in both strength of schedule and nationally rated in the conference. Number 7, UCF, the last remaining of the newcomers. UCF finished 9-5, lost in the American Championship game to Tulane. They're rated 39th nationally, 26 overall in strength of schedule, 49 returning production. A team that very few, there's been certain people that have picked them to actually go to the Big 12 championship game in their first year in the conference. I do not see that happening. I see them getting to 7, 8 wins, I think, is their They're capped for this year, especially with that strength of schedule. But UCF has defied odds many times in the past, so we'll see what happens with UCF in this year. Baylor Bears 6-7 last year, 32nd nationally ranked, 29th strength of schedule, 25th returning production, which is pretty high for Power 5 teams. Not much else to say about Baylor. Dave Aranda has done a really good job. Obviously, he won the conference 2 years ago. Last year was not a good year, but they still made it to a bowl game. See if they can rebound and get back to the winning ways in Waco, Texas. Top 5, Texas Tech, one of the dark horses not only in the conference, but some have picked them actually to upset and make a huge play into the CFP postseason this year. Texas Tech finished 8-5 last year, beat Texas, I do believe, on the overtime field goal. 25th rated nationally, 41st overall in strength of schedule, 52nd returning production. But I mean, this team is a lot of dark horse picks to make it to the Big 12 championship game. So see what happens with the Red Raiders and in Lubbock, Texas. See if they can actually defy all odds and make it to the Big 12 championship. And we're for Oklahoma. Their last year in the Big 12, where they go to the SEC, 6-7. Probably one of the worst seasons in Oklahoma history, given how good they've been, ever in college football lore. Rated 21st nationally, 37th strength of schedule, 46th returning production. They get Dylan Gabriel back in Brett Venables' second season as a head coach. Oklahoma's got to do better. They have to do better than 6-7 this year. There's no way they go, a lackluster 7-5, 7-6 season 2 years in a row. It's Oklahoma. They can't do it again, right? Guess we'll have to see, guys. And number 3, the rating national runner-up TCU finished 13-2 last year, 14th rated nationally, 32 rated strength of schedule, but that bottom stat, guys, 131st in returning production. There are only 2 teams have less returning production than TCU, and this team was picked, I do believe, finished last or bottom 3 in the entire country in their conference last year, let alone even make it close to the CFP. I don't see this team getting anywhere close to that. If they get to 7 wins this year, I will be amazed by that. This team is just absolutely gutted. Does not look like they're headed in the right direction. Even though they made it to the national runner-up, I like their coach, Sonny Dykes, but this team just has nobody coming back. I don't know if other recruiting looked, but I'm sorry, I just don't see TCU finishing in the top 15 nationally and the top 3 in the Big 12 this year. I just don't see it happening, guys. I think these 2 teams have a legit chance of making it to the Big 12 championship game, though. Kansas State, the reigning Big 12 champion, 10-4 last year, 13th rated nationally, 15th strength of schedule. That's one of the hardest. I do believe it's the second hardest in the conference. No, wait, that's not. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of a different stat. 99th returning production. I mean, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Right now, Kansas State is the man. They beat TCU. They were the better team, obviously. If there was a 12-team playoff, I think they would have had one of the top 4 byes last year at 10-3. But Kansas State, they're the team to beat, obviously, until said otherwise. But the team that is everybody's projecting to win and possibly be in the CFP for the first time in their school's history is Texas. Yes, they finished 8-5 last year. Yes, they play Alabama week 2. Yes, they have the 3rd hardest strength of schedule in all of the country. It's tops in the Big 12. And yes, the returning production is only 63rd. But this team, at least according to all the power ratings and the preseason, which, they're preseason national champs every year, this team is destined to do good things this year. And if they don't get to 10 wins, I do believe it will be a failure for Texas Longhorns. They have everything riding for them. They have one of the top recruiting classes coming in this year. They have their quarterback returning along with the best quarterback in this year's class, Arch Manning. They had Quinn Ewers, whatever you say his name. They got a great receiving core. They got great coaching. They got a great defense. They just need to put it together and get wins on the field, guys. That's all I got to say. Texas is their year. If they don't get to at least 10 wins and make it to the Big 12 championship game, I think it'll be an absolute failure in all of Longhorn country's eyes. And here's an overview of the Big 12, guys. As you can see, Texas and Kansas State are kind of the only 2 elite teams in these power ratings, along with, I guess, TCU. But this is going to be the most fun conference, like it has been the last 2 years. Everybody's just going to beat up on each other. Again, there might be a 3-loss conference champ yet again, just how close these teams are rated. But, I mean, an away game, even though it could be Kansas State at 13th, and they're on the road at BYU 56. That's not even close to a guaranteed win. These away games are going to be crazy. This conference is going to be crazy, and it's going to be the most, I do believe, the most fun, at least in the Power 5, but it could be in all of college football, the most fun conference for college football for 2023, guys. That's the video. Who do you think should be rated higher? Who do you think should be rated lower? Who do you think's overrated? Who do you think's underrated? Ultimately, who do you think will win the Big 12 Conference in this new 14-team expanded version? Follow me on Twitter, guys, and Instagram at TheSportsNerd92. Before you go, though, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and join me next time for any future college football videos. Can't wait for football to start, guys. See you then.